Traumatization is inevitable. That's a truth I've come to accept. Not because I want to, but because I've seen how deeply rooted it is in human experience, especially in childhood, and especially when it comes to discipline. We like to think there's a right way to raise a child, a balanced way, a method that keeps them in line without crossing a line. But what I think the truth is, even the most well intentioned punishments can leave scars. Sometimes trauma doesn't look like bruises or screams. Sometimes it looks like silence, like a withdrawal, like a kid shutting down when they hear footsteps down the hallway. Trauma is subjective and it comes in layers, some loud and some quiet. What breaks one child might barely phase another, and what one parent sees as discipline, the child may carry as shame for the rest of their life. Let's take spanking for example. It's been one of the most debated forms of punishment in parenting because it's been normalized, even romanticized as old school and tough love, as they like to put it. But study shows us the consequences. It could lead to increased aggression, poor emotional regulation, impaired cognitive development, even a weakened sense of morality. Because rather than learning why something was wrong, the child just learns to fear the consequences. And then on the other hand, there's what people like to call the lighter stuff: taking away toys, confiscating their favorite video game, grounding, giving them the silent treatment. It's not physical, but it's still felt within the child's emotions. A child's prized possessions, whether it's a toy, a phone, or even just a drawing they made, can hold a lot of emotional value. So when you take that away, you're not just punishing their behavior, you're punishing their joy, their attachment, and sometimes their identity. We don't often recognize emotional trauma the way we do physical trauma, but they still both cut deep. It's not about what you do, it's about where the child is coming from. It's their environment. See, a child who gets spanked regularly might grow up thinking, losing a toy is fucking nothing. Meanwhile, another kid who's never been hit might experience a single spanking as something earth shattering. And it's not even about the punishment alone, it's about the message that comes with it. The confusion. Like, imagine being a kid, thinking what you did made sense at the time. Maybe you could have just been curious. Maybe you just wanted to express yourself. Maybe you didn't even realize it was wrong. But then suddenly you're just punished. Harshly at that. Now, you're not just hurting, you're confused. You're trying to understand how something that felt rational in your little mind led to pain. That memory sticks, and that moment burns itself into you. And you carry that, not just for the day, and not just for the year, but sometimes your whole life. Because here's the hard truth, or it's what I think is the hard truth. Punishment always sends a message, and that message doesn't always land the way parents think it will. You might be thinking you're teaching respect, but the child might be learning fear. You might think you're instilling discipline, but the child might just be internalizing shame. Every punishment is a moment for emotional branding, even if it's just small to you, even if it's just a lesson, even if it didn't leave a mark. The child's brain is still developing, still learning how to feel, how to interpret cause and effect, and when that process gets hijacked by fear, shame, or just confusion, it shapes how they see the world, even how they see themselves. And I get it. Kids do mess up. They test their limits and they make decisions without good understanding of the consequences. But I feel like that's the point of childhood. Like, I feel like that's the point of being a kid. To mess up in a safe space, to learn through guidance and not fear. Discipline doesn't always have to be traumatizing, but too often it is, because we think of punishment as something that must hurt to be effective. That's a myth, and it's a damaging one. Pain is not the same as growth, and fear is not the same as respect. Suppression is not the same as emotional regulation. Y'all think y'all doing the right thing, but a child doesn't need to be hurt to learn. They need to be understood, and they need meaningful conversations. Because the long term goal isn't just obedience, it's emotional intelligence, it's a moral development. And let me say this again before y'all get me fucked up, bruh. Just to be clear, trauma is subjective. It's not always about the punishment itself, but how it's experienced, the context, the history, the emotional climate of the home. One child's lesson learned is another child's, I never felt safe again. One child's quote unquote lesson learned is another child's quote unquote I never felt safe again. So when we talk about discipline, when we talk about parenting, when we talk about raising children, we have to ask deeper questions. Not, like, oh, it didn't work in a moment and shit like that. But, you know, what did it leave behind? Because everything leaves behind something. And traumatization, whether loud or quiet, isn't always something that we can just erase later. It's something that we manage to unpack and heal from if we're lucky. And hopefully, y'all, yes, I'm saying y'all, hopefully, y'all become parents yourselves. Y'all just choose to do better. Because every child deserves more than just survival. They deserve to grow without carrying fear, to be corrected without being crushed, to be guided instead of branded. Because traumatization may be inevitable, but how do we minimize it? That's a choice.